I'm in love with the South. So I've decided to spend the next 7 weeks leaving Bluff and doing a massive circumnavigation of the South Island.
In this episode, I'm going inland to the town of Te Anau, then I'm going to walk all the way to Milford Sound.
This is South.
What really floats my boat about this part of Fiordland is the characters and the stories here, and also the amazing achievement in generating power here. So for me, this is Fiordland's power to generate stories and Fiordland's story of generating power. And I'm right by one of our most interesting power generation stories, the largest hydroelectric dam in the country, Manapuri, built to satisfy the huge demand for electricity from the Tiwai aluminium smelter. An amazing engineering feat, and nothing about its construction was ordinary. A 10-kilometre tunnel was drilled into granite, taking water from Lake Manapuri through generating turbines and down to Deep Cove and the sea. This is an absolutely remarkable room. I'm sure it's the most expensive room ever built within New Zealand. I mean, what is it? A cavern carved out of solid granite. It's an amazing sense you get in this room, because obviously within this room they generate enough power to power a city the size of Auckland, although of course it's all used for Tiwai Point to make aluminium. And the room's got an amazing feel. It was built in the late 60s, early 70s, so it's got a 70s feel, yet a very futuristic feel as well. The blue, the green, the cream. And to see that the walls themselves are solid rock, they're not even lined, it's just amazing. It's sort of exciting to be here because actually I am within the middle of a mountain. It was said that with tunnelling you can expect to lose a man a mile, and Manapuri confirmed that. 16 men lost their lives drilling the tunnel. A tremendous workforce was needed for the job. 2,000 workers, 500 of them were here in Doubtful Sound. They had no accommodation here, so what they decided to do was bring a trans-Tasman ocean liner called the Wanganella. They moored it there, 500 men, 1 woman on board from all over the world. They lived there, and by all accounts, it was like the Wild West. And it was cowboys like Tim Shadbolt, then a student looking for a holiday job, who took up the challenge.
It was a real adventure, a real boys' own adventure. You know, a lot of Yugoslavs, Italians, Greeks. There weren't that many Kiwis on the sites. They were doing 12-hour shifts on a pneumatic drill, and they'd lower you in little cages down these tail race tunnels and explosions going off everywhere. It wasn't brutal, but it was tough. Heavy gambling and heavy drinking. I'd never seen $10,000 on a table with one hand being dependent on a card game.
The Wanganella was notorious for its drinking culture. They even had a special edition of beer brewed. According to reports, when it came time to move the ship at the completion of the project, the tug struggled to dislodge the boat from the bed of beer cans. It was thought that Lake Manapuri would need to be raised to help with the power generation, and not everyone was happy about this.
Manapuri was a major tourist attraction in those days, and the National Publicity Studios, would use in terms of promoting New Zealand as a tourist destination. Lake Manapuri, that was the gem among the lakes of New Zealand. And I guess, that is why the protest came from all parts of New Zealand.
Neville Peat is an author who wrote a book about this controversial time.
According to the ecological studies that were done in 69 and 70, there was going to be tremendous damage to the forest edge. There'd be raw scars all over the place. The beaches would be ruined. It was an epic struggle between development and nature conservation.
The workers on the project were caught off guard by the protest movement.
It was never discussed that the lake would have to be raised, and we presumed the tunnel was wide enough to generate electricity as it was. As it happened, the tunnel was too small and they eventually had to build another one. So raising the lake wouldn't have solved that problem necessarily. It would have done huge damage. And a lot of people were very supportive of the smelter and very supportive of the power project, but just didn't want the lake to be sacrificed as a result.
They collected 265,000 signatures, a record at that time, and presented the petition to Parliament. The Manapuri issue virtually changed the government. It went from National to Labor, and Norman Kirk's government came into power, and they promised not to raise the lake.
The Save Manapuri campaign marked the beginning of the modern New Zealand conservation movement. One song resonated with the protesters and became synonymous with the saving of Manapuri. So how did the song become so tied into the whole Manapuri protest?
Just coincidence, synchronicity. The song was out there. It was just the awakening of the environmental movement, I think, worldwide.
And the dam cried the fantail as he flew into the sky to give part to...
This is the first time I've ever actually been here. So they picked the song up because it suited the purposes of what they were doing.
Well, it's special to me you're on the lake. How does it feel to you that you had a part in saving it?
Whenever I think of things like this, if something good comes out of something you did, it's not really a good idea to question it. The reality is, every time you want to use more power, as we do things, there's some sort of price we have to pay. I mean, there's a cost, isn't there? So is it going to be a dam? Do you use coal? Do you use wind power? Either that or turn off more lights. Don't use your computers. Throw away your iPod.
Damn the dam, cried the fantail as he flew into the sky.
Yeah, that's right. Damn the dam, cried the fantail as he flew into the sky. Giving power to the people, all the fantail's gonna die. Whatever. Here we go. Fantastic. Here I am back in civilization. Look at this. This is Te Anau. What a tremendous town. In fact, I had such a good holiday here 12 years ago. That's one of the reasons I moved to Southland. Tremendous locals, and it's a tourist town. And there's three types of tourists come here. The first group's the happiest group. They're the group on bus tours. Mainly Asians. They do the Queenstown, Milford Sound and back leg in a day, and they stop here and they buy sheepskin stuffs and the operators get a commission, and they're the first group. The second group are the trampers, or hikers as we call them now, and they're the ones that look so incredibly unhappy. Normally husbands and wives or couples in their 40s carrying everything on their back with their backpacks, and for people that claim to love the great outdoors, they seem to look incredibly miserable, running from hut to hut, complaining about the weather, sitting in those dock offices asking long questions, wearing those funny shorts that have got that extra bit that you strap on to become longs. Well, that's wrong. You should have a pair of shorts and a pair of longs. So they're the second group, the hikers or the trampers. They look miserable. If that's their idea of a holiday, I think they must be self-flagellators. The third group is the group that drives me crazy. They're the group we used to call backpackers. I now call them van bludgers. These are these young people that come to New Zealand on the bludge. They buy or rent those cheap vans, and they just treat New Zealand like a cheap date, going from town to town, getting drunk, camping on the side of the road, desecrating and leaving their rubbish there. I think they should be banned. I think they're the worst imports since possums, rabbits and didymos. Anyway, I'm in Te Anau. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to a bit of a break. And look at those mountains. That just looks absolutely gorgeous. Can you see that? Beautiful. It is slightly Twin Peaksy though, this town, and I don't know whether I like to be too far inland.
Another group of people you encounter in Te Anau are the locals, and they seem like good sticks. Kim Hollows has called Te Anau home for 30 years. As a helicopter pilot, he was so stunned by the images he saw on a daily basis, he decided they should be shared with the rest of the world. With Fiordland as the star, Kim was going into the movie business.
Had the privilege of spending my life flying around Fiordland. Wanted to show the rest of the world, I suppose, what we have on offer. Had this great idea, strap a little video camera underneath the helicopter and fly around squirting off images. So it's you know, it wasn't about making money. It was just doing something I wanted to do in my lifetime.
Raising the money was never going to be easy. The conversation with the bank manager was pretty brief after he asked who the actors were going to be. A movie with no actors, dialogue or plot was going to be a tough thing to get cash for, but Kim refused to give up.
Driving around town one day, I found a bare block of land and went about building a subdivision. A couple of years later, had it finished, sold the sections within days. We went away and hired some clever people and spent 2 years of our lives making this movie.
So everyone got completely transfixed by Fiordland.
Well, they did really. I think it is quite a unique part of New Zealand. It's like Timbuktu. People are not quite sure what it's all about, or there is such a place, and it's quite a big slice of New Zealand real estate, and we just people don't know what we've got down here really. And without a little experience like this, you don't really get to see these little corners that you wouldn't see otherwise.
When the film was finally completed, Kim had another problem. There was nowhere in Te Anau to screen it. He had to build a theatre and find a projectionist.
Your opening night, when you got the projectionist and you sat down, people straight away you could realise that there was magic in the movie?
Well, we sort of realised it was a half-pie winner, and before that I'd lived and dreamed the whole thing. You start to get too close to the product and you think, oh, you know, I'm just over it. I just want it to finish, but yeah, you get there in the end, and it has been so well received, and it's been a humbling experience for me, and how well received it has been.
In the summer, Art of Whenua plays 15 times a day, and over 200,000 people have seen it or bought the DVD.
And with the whole helicopter side of things, do you get bored of that? Is that it's one of those jobs you don't get sick of what you end up doing, because Fiordland always does turn it on?
No 2 days are the same in Fiordland. It is one of those special, unique little corners of the world that I will never tire of.
I'm off to do the Milford Track with people that have paid money. This is like the Milford Track for people with coin. I don't necessarily know that I'm not going to want to be for 3 days with a whole group of people, but at least they're people that are successful in life and they might have manners. And I'm standing with Paul Henry with that. And probably it's going to be a lot of people asking the guides questions, because it seems to be the more money people have and the more people pay, the more questions they like to ask. What do they call it, the Milford Track? How far is it? How high are we now? What's that? How do I walk? Where's my legs? That sort of stuff, but you know. As long as there's not anything too naff in terms of singing or introducing yourselves, that stuff terrifies me. But I'll get over it. It's not going to kill me, is it? Hi, my name's Marcus. I'm a broadcaster. I'm Marcus from Bluff, and Beneath the stars, my 10 guitars. I have done this trick once before, and it was full of Americans, quite upmarket Americans. This time it seems to be more full of Australian families and Kiwis. Well, it's the morning of the first full day's walk on the Milford Track. Weather's cleared. It's got a delightful feel with the beech forest and the river beside me, and yeah, loving it. Walking at the back of the group, so not having to have the forced conversations with the tourists. I'll do that a bit later on. So really nice. It's a bit of a river walk today, just following the river
along before the McKinnon Pass, which will be tomorrow's big slog. But very social, very unintrepid, very, yeah, relaxed, calm, peaceful, lovely. Into it. Into it.
And actually, all I'm doing on the Milford Track is what people have always done.
This Milford Track is one-way traffic. There's no one going the other direction. So normally when you do one of these walks, there's always people going the other way and saying, how far to the next hut? Oh, you've got to be careful up the path, the weather's closing, and haven't passed anyone. So it's been amazing. Sun's come out, weather's turned good. I can see the pass where I'm going over tomorrow. Still got a spring in my step. My body feels like a well-oiled machine. I've got the body of a teenager.
Oh, well, bugger me if it's not the running of the bulls. Pamplona. And once again, I'm doing here what people have always done here, and most of that involves looking skyward and taking in the grandeur. There you go, there's the grandeur. Ah, the grandeur. More grandeur. Shoulder tap and grandeur. And a bit more grandeur.
It's not a difficult walk, and like a lot of things in adventure tourism now, I think they talk it up more before it happens because people want to feel they've achieved something. It's a good walk, it's a brisk walk. No one will die doing the Milford Track. You wouldn't want to push a pram up here, but if you can walk, you can do the Milford Track. And actually, while I'm here, I'm doing a guided walk. It's not like guides with people carrying your pack. It's actually, there's people at each hut that cook your tea and do your blisters, and that's been neat as well. I'm not complaining. I'll take the high life once in a while. To walk with kings and keep the common touch, as Kipling once said. I've got an extremely high pain threshold. Oh, Jesus.
Actually, my only concern is the end bits come off my laces. So annoying.
These are going to be much better. I think I'll have them laced wrong. That was why I had my blisters, my ugly sisters. It is like getting a marshmallow into a parking meter.
I get browned off at these people that do the Machu Picchu and the Mount Kinabalu and all these places around the world and say how magic and glorious it is. All these people with their overseas trips and their overseas diseases. New Zealand's prettier than all that. You can go anywhere around the world, but actually New Zealand, you'd save yourself a lot of green miles and you'd save the environment and just actually holiday within New Zealand. You can't make New Zealanders appreciate it, but if you get a chance, this is really stunning. It's really stunning. I hope we haven't lost the love of the outdoors. This is the McKinnon Pass, and this is the monument to Quentin McKinnon, and this is time for a history lesson. Quentin McKinnon was a Scotsman, short, nuggety, played rugby for Otago. Anyway, the drink got the better of him, not uncommon amongst Otago rugby players, so he moved to Te Anau, a restless explorer type. At that time, the government put forward a £25 reward for the first person that could find a passage between Lake Te Anau and Milford Sounds. Obviously, they wanted tourists to go through there. He was the man that discovered this pass, got the £25 reward, then became a guide and started guiding people through what we know now as the Milford Track. Did that for 4 years, and then tragically his boat was found upturned in Lake Te Anau. He had drowned. I'm not quite sure how old he was, but old enough to have died young. Look it up on your Google, on your computer, you'll find out 30, 40, 50. God, the Milford Track, you know, it's a bit old hat, but the view up here is spectacular. It really is. You're on the top of the mountains. There's a couple of hours slog up to get to it, which makes it worthwhile. Obviously, with tramping or climbing, it's the harder one a view is, the more rewarding it is. But yeah, I'm not in tears or welling up, but it is. I'd forgotten just how beautiful it is. And to see it on a special day like this, yeah, it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. It's bloody neat. And these are the Sutherland Falls, or should I say, this is the Sutherland Falls. I'm not quite sure if it's singular or plural. They were discovered in the late 1800s, and these were a big deal. Bearing in mind, in those days, I mean, natural phenomena were a great source of entertainment. When there was no TV, there was no video, there was no radio, there was no YouTube, so the only entertainment in those days were parlour games, seances, zoos, Punch and Judy shows, or natural attractions. So when this was discovered, it set the world on fire. When they found this, they thought this was going to be the highest in the world, 580 metres, and people from all around the world wanted to come here. That's why there was a pressure to find a track so people could come here and witness this phenomenon. It is amazing. The pressure, it's a very spectacular fall. It's very spectacular. And of course, it is the highest in New Zealand. So I'm just walking into the waterfalls, the bowl of the waterfall, to illustrate to you the power. The power. Oh, it's like a force field. And to show you how powerful it is, I'm going to do my umbrella. Oh. So yeah. Woo! Like a cabbage tree. Woo!
As I headed to Martins Bay to end this part of the trip, I'm really moved and kind of overwhelmed that in the 1800s and earlier, people fought and persevered and worked so hard to discover the beauty of Fiordland, the falls and the lakes, etc. Then in the 1960s and 70s, protesters fought so hard to keep Fiordland as it was, to save the grazing the lakes. So now in 2009, Fiordland is largely as it was, apart from the occasional roads and the occasional towns to help people enjoy it. And I think that's fantastic, that Fiordland is largely undisturbed and undestroyed. And what a legacy. That's something we all should be very, very grateful for.
Yes.